In 1989, two missing hikers were rescued from a mountain in Japan and were told the enormous SOS sign that they had built helped locate them. The hikers were confused, revealing they made no such SOS sign, leaving investigators to realize that there was someone else on the mountain. Today, we follow the confusing tale of the SOS Sign Incident. This is Red Web. Welcome back, Task Force, to another episode of Red Web, the podcast all about unsolved mysteries, cases, true crime, cryptids, conspiracies, a little sprinkling of aliens. They always make their way in there. I'm your resident mystery enthusiast, Trevor Collins, and joining me hearing this case for the very first time, Alfredo Diaz.
Very interesting case. Yet again, I go, wow, there's just a lot of unique mysteries out there.
Mm-hmm.
Never thought about, okay, hikers, SOS sign, they're found. They didn't make the sign?
Oh, yeah.
Instantly, my mind, my emotions go, that's eerie. That's creepy. Then very quickly dives into the creepy section and goes, oh, no. That means, because like that's probably someone watching you, right?
You think someone just said,
I feel
I'll
like that
save
someone's
you.
watching you,
Yeah, and
tracking you and
Sasquatch
being close
made it?
by. That'd be wild.
No, he's very
And then
wild.
back up into the trees. I still can't. I will never let that go.
Scurry back up into the trees. I hate that visual.
But like, I don't know. To me, it just seems like someone's just like watching you, and then it's like, well, you need help, and then makes a sign or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, man. I'm already lost. I don't need someone stalking me while I'm lost in the woods, seeing what I'm doing, when I'm pooping, when I'm rubbing my nips. I don't need any of that to be like seen by even someone that is unknown.
These are the things he does when he's lost.
These are the things I do when I'm lost, man. You know, you got to really take full advantage of the fact that you're just out there. Fresh air, wilderness.
It's interesting the take you have because, I mean, and that's the kind of meandering path that I've walked you down with a long storied history of this podcast and conspiracies. But the story is very strange. It definitely gets even stranger the more we talk about it. But yeah, just to me, I was gripped by the tale of hikers, and I've heard about this first many years ago, but hikers being found and they're like, hey, that giant SOS sign you made, clutch move. And they're like, what are you talking about? And that's it.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Compelling.
Like, I'm interested to see what the SOS sign was made out of, how big it was, how big was it, where was it in correlation to like their campsite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, questions.
Questions. We got instant answers for you. Only so that way we can unfurl just a boatload of questions on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Task Force, before we dive in, again, as always, I want to give a huge shout out to our first members, Task Force members that support us by being a first member. It's essentially our Patreon. It's the number one way to support us. If you go to redwebpod.com/first, you can sign up and you get this show ad-free. That's right, baby. Because you support us, we keep this journey going seamlessly. But we also have bonus episodes of other shows, such as Case Files, and we have another show that we're in the works on. Don't want to spill those beans just yet, like I said last week, but other things that we're working on to kind of provide you extra material to thank you for supporting us. And you know what? We might throw out some bloopers here soon. A lot of gaffes happen before the opening hook, a lot of things that we cut.
There's the wildest things get said.
So, hey, if you want
this podcast start,
I'm thinking we might release some of those to the wild, but just to you first members.
It truly is the like life force, the blood that keeps this running, and we're very, very thankful. Also, sometimes we use that same bloodstream to keep ourselves young. So thank you for that.
It goes both ways. Is this podcast a vampire? Definitely, maybe not. But also probably yes.
But maybe we do shine in the sun.
So thank you for letting us in. We sparkle in the sun. Redwebpod.com/first. Again, thank you all so much. And with that said, let's dive into the initial disappearance. On July 24th, 1989, two hikers from Tokyo were reported missing while climbing the path from Mount Kurodake to Asahidake in Daisetsuzan National Park. Asahidake is the highest peak in Hokkaido, the northernmost island of Japan, and it sits at 2,291 illustrious meters, or 7,500 feet.
There we go.
Yeah, I got you, baby.
There we go.
We're talking meters this time because we're in Japan, but I'll bring those feet around for you, those stinky little feet. So the two hikers went off the path and turned south toward the Chubetsugawa River. While rescuers were searching for them in a helicopter, they spotted a enormous, my own words, SOS sign in a clearing about 4 kilometers from the summit of Asahidake, or 2.5 miles. The sign was made of 19 5-meter long birch tree limbs, or 16 feet long. The letters themselves were 5 meters wide by 3 meters tall. Or if you want to picture it this way, Fredo, just like lay out a bunch of king's feet.
Yeah.
It'd be 16 feet wide, 10 feet tall.
Oh, okay.
Made with birch limbs. But the image that I have, and you can go ahead and check it out here.
That sounds manageable. It doesn't seem like it.
Maybe. They look like logs, not like limbs.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big old SOS sign.
Yeah.
So they got lost because they went off of the path?
Right. Okay, so they're going from one peak to another.
Yeah.
Common path, little straight shot. For whatever reason, they decided to go south, which is kind of off into the wilderness, not really the appropriate way to go.
Why you do that?
Yeah, and then they got lost. And by the time that they were found, or at least where this SOS sign is, it's almost directly south by a good ways from Asahidake, which is that main peak there. So notably, they were essentially in the middle of nowhere, no trails nearby. So they were out there wandering.
Yeah, it's a sizable SOS sign. It looks very clear. It's like a big, huge clearing. So it's not like obscured by anything. So that's nice too.
Yeah. So just to give you kind of a lay of the land, and of course, Task Force, as always, will provide a map online at RedWebPod on our social if you want to check that out. I don't recall exactly how far these two peaks are from each other, Asahidake and Mount Kurodake, if you don't mind looking that up, Christian. But either way, several kilometers south of Asahidake is this SOS sign. Now, this sign allowed rescuers to locate the two missing people, and they themselves were about 2 to 3 kilometers north of the sign. So they were somewhere between their intended destination, that peak, and the sign itself, 1 to 2 miles.
Looking at the hiking path, they're about 13 kilometers apart, which translates to just a little over 8 miles.
But regardless of where they were, when they were rescued and they were told about the SOS sign, of course, the two hikers were confused and said that they did not make any such sign. It appeared that there must be another missing person somewhere on Asahidake, so Hokkaido police began looking for whoever created the sign that very next day on July 25th. Upon investigation, police discovered broken human bones surrounding the SOS sign. They appeared to have been gnawed on by animals.
Whoa, I was about to say, like, I didn't even think about someone else making a sign for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But also, in my head, well, if you made the sign, you're probably close by.
Mm-hmm.
Bones being gnawed on? I mean, like,
right.
This is 89. We have a little bit of technology there. Like, how long were the bones there for?
Great questions.
What's the decay rate look like? Can we calculate like the time span, the time frame of like death here?
Mm-hmm. These are all great questions. And we're going to explore some of them to the best of their ability at the investigation at the time. Some things were overlooked. I'll go ahead and say it. I don't think DNA tests were done at this time. And some of the tests that they can do on bones are a little inexact, but we'll get to all of that. But fantastic questions. So according to a Japanese blog, these bones constituted the pelvis, the femur, and the humerus. So a wide smattering here of human bones, but not all of them, it seems. Now, it's unclear whether these bones were broken before or after death because, in addition to being gnawed on, some of them were obviously broken. So police continued to search the area when they came upon a strange hole beneath the roots of a tree about 50 meters or 165 feet from the SOS sign. Sources often describe this hole as just large enough for a person to be able to crawl into. Inside the hole, there was a backpack containing toiletries, 2 cameras, a tripod, a notebook, basketball shorts, a tape recorder / Walkman, some cassette tapes, and jewelry. Now, this jewelry, by some sources, is referred to as an amulet. So it's possible that these were some good luck charms. For example, the blog I mentioned earlier claims that this was a Sano Shrine traffic safety protection charm, which is essentially something that in modern times you would put into your car to offer you protection.
Interesting.
I believe against just like car wrecks or against bad traffic. Christian, do you know much more about that one?
Looks like they're meant to protect you really when traveling with any means of transportation, car, train, airplane, etc.
Ooh,
Oh.
that's
Okay.
good to know because something that will come up later. I'll just go ahead and throw out the tease, throw out the line right now. Helicopter.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So, in addition to that bag with all those goodies inside it, there was also a human skull.
Oh, geez.
And, conveniently, an ID belonging to a man named Kenji Iwamura. So now the investigation begins. We have 2 hikers that were found, an SOS sign that is shockingly owned up by no one. It just seems like out of place and out of time. But then when looking closer, we have an individual here. So let's look at them. Iwamura was an office worker from Konan, Aichi, who had also visited the area to go hiking. Now, Konan is 1,600 kilometers or 1,000 miles south by way of car of that mountain.
Oh.
Way down the
That's
island of Japan.
Pretty far, yeah.
Yeah. And it turns out that Iwamura didn't show up for work for about a week after he planned to. So his parents reported him missing on July 10th, 1984. That would have been almost exactly 5 years prior to the SOS sign being discovered.
Wow.
Like 5 years and 2 weeks exactly.
So you're saying this sign is potentially 5 years old?
Yeah, potentially.
This case has gone a totally different direction than where I thought it would go. I didn't even think about another person making this sign and having it be their situation. If I was in their situation, look, excited that someone else was found because of my sign. Low-key kind of mad it wasn't me.
It worked, just not for you.
Yeah, just not for you. But also years prior, oh man, how is it not found for 5 years?
Right.
Whoa.
In a giant open clearing on this relatively well-known mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was 22 years old when he went missing, and at the time, police had no lead, so they had to give up the search. Returning to 1989, the story going on July 27th, police listened to the cassette tapes that they found in the tree hole, as I'm calling it. They were recordings from multiple anime theme songs, including Magical Princess, Minky Momo, and Macross. Friends of Iwamura had known him to carry recordings of various anime themes on him, so this makes a lot of sense. Eerily enough, though, there was also a recording of a man screaming for help for 2 minutes and 17 seconds.
Jesus, that is morbid.
Yeah.
I mean, wildlife probably got to him, I would say. Wolves or something, you know.
Potentially.
Found him in his little den. And then just, I guess he just turned it on to just give some kind of evidence as to his final moments.
Yeah, we're not going to discuss it too much in here, but when I was looking around some of these Japanese blogs, and there could be translation errors, of course, a lot of people were talking about the recording and the potential that it was inadvertent, that while carrying the cassette player, the recorder on him, that he accidentally turned it on and or off while in various positions underneath the tree. So I don't know if this was a deliberate recording, I just want to put that on the record, or if it was accidental. But either way, it is definitely a disturbing recording of a man clearly lost in the woods, desperately seeking help. However, his life may have ended after this. So he says, quote, "SOS, help me. I can't move on the cliff. SOS, help me. The place is where I first met the helicopter. The Sasa is deep and you can't go up. Lift me up from here." So the voice pauses between and enunciates each and every syllable. So when you're yelling, sometimes it doesn't carry the proper meaning, the enunciation. And Sasa is broadleafed bamboo. So basically what we're hearing is a person calling out for help, saying that they can't really move because they're near a cliff, so they can't go up, but they can't go down, and the bamboo's too thick to be able to move through. And so they found at the point of this recording kind of maybe a clearing where they're like, this is a safe spot for a helicopter to get me, and it's where I last saw a helicopter. Or they said, I first met the helicopter. Again, I don't know if there's a translation error there, but essentially, maybe a helicopter brought them there.
Met the helicopter.
Yeah. Or maybe they just saw a helicopter going by.
Yeah.
Hence and this is also not exactly where the SOS sign was placed. And we'll talk more about that later, but we'll just say it now. There's no cliffside near the SOS sign.
Oh, interesting.
So this indicates that this person did eventually move. They recorded this and then found a different spot to set up the SOS sign in a clearing. Now, most of the items in the bag appeared to belong to Iwamura. to substantiate this, the basketball shorts, for example, were of his size. I'm sure he's not a unique size, but either way, it would make sense that they were his. However, and this is where the case gets even more twisted, what felt like a very simple case just keeps kind of going down the rabbit hole. So when bones from the hole were sent to Asahikawa Medical University to be examined, police assumed that they belonged to Iwamura. Makes a lot of sense.
Makes sense. That's what I thought.
Oh yeah. But the tests revealed that the bones, including the skull from the hole, belonged to a woman between the ages of 20 and 40 with type O blood. Further testing showed that there might be bones from different people in the hole. And according to Asahi Morning Edition from July 30th, the report also showed that the woman would have been about 160 centimeters tall, or 5'3", and died within the last 1 to 3 years. So, not long enough to go all the way back to Iwamura.
Oh, whoa. I mean, who's to say he didn't go run off and then a couple years later decided to go on this hike?
Wait, he came in, built the SOS, went home, came back, got lost?
No. Like, was the SOS built 5 years ago? Or we're just saying that it could have been 5 years ago because we're going off of the assumption that he went missing and immediately went to this location.
Right.
But it could have been he went missing or ran away and then a couple years later found himself in this situation.
Could be.
Being lost in the forest.
Could be.
Oh, man, I didn't expect the bones not to be his. I'll be honest.
We got another player involved, yeah.
This is a whole nother thing. I mean, I'm thinking now a group got lost. Bad situation.
Entirely possible.
You know, and then from there, it's like self-preservation type stuff.
I wonder, and this is definitely a leap, Christian, I don't know if you'll be able to find this, but knowing where we're going in the outline, is it possible to find out how tall Kenji Iwamura was? Because there's discrepancies with the bone test, right? And, you know, you can look at the bones and relatively size up the height of somebody. If you have the femur, for example, proportionally, you can kind of come up with their height. And I'm very curious, you know, we have somebody saying, well, these bones look like the person died 1 to 3 years. Iwamura was 5 years ago. We also have somebody who's 5'3" potentially. And if he's wildly taller than that or shorter than that, then we know another player is involved. And I say all that because while he looks that up, when the university re-examined the bones, they found that they were from a male with type A blood.
Oh, no. Now there's inconsistencies with the bones.
Right. So it opens up a lot of different vectors. Were the tests inconclusive? Were the tests flawed? We'll talk about that later. Or, as you were kind of getting at, was it a group? Are there various bones from multiple people in this one spot? Also incredibly possible.
Wow, it was like 2 hikers were lost and then found. Anyways, that's not the main point. We got this whole other thing going on. Holy!
Just the fact that the SOS sign is like, it's like fate. That this, we found you only because this thing was here. And they're like, yeah, we had nothing to do with that. And you're like, okay, well, let's go poke around that SOS sign and see what, oh my God, there's so much here.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's like, forget y'all's story. Like, we just stumbled upon something wilder.
Yeah. Well, this is where the police ended their investigation. They believed that with the recent re-examining of the bones being type A blood, being male, that they think that they have Kenji Iwamura, and that's where the official investigation ends, really.
Boom, case closed.
Yeah. So again, it's a tall order to ask, Christian, but at the time, I'm thinking if you know Iwamura's height and you know his blood type, which his parents would hopefully know, then we can start to cross-examine here. But looking back, as Christian's kind of discovering, resources begun to thin out, trying to find the commonality, the through thread that is the true path through the story. It can be difficult. But man, those are the questions I would be asking at the time.
Wow, that's a good one. There's a lot of good mysteries out there. What a turn.
Yeah. There's a couple other things I want to mention before we get to the theories. But how are we looking, Christian? It's okay if you don't come up with any. I was just very curious if it's out there.
If you can solve the mystery too, that'd be great.
Right. Just go ahead and just tippy tap on Google a little bit. That should do it, I think.
No, it's a very good question. Unfortunately, it looks like both Kenji's height and blood type are unavailable information, at least from what I can see.
Sure. I mean, that makes sense. But it's always worth putting the burden on you. See what you find. So, like I said, police ended their investigation. They believe that Iwamura followed a path trying to find a landmark called the Safe Rock, which is used to mark the safe way down the mountain. So if you get off the beaten path, this is a known landmark. You can even go to
Oh.
that spot on Google Maps, type it in, especially if you type in the Japanese name, it becomes a lot easier, and you can see it. I have photos of them for you. However, there is another landmark, and I hate that I was venting and ranting and raving with Jillian on this fact, but there's another landmark that looks very similar to the Safe Rock, and guess what it's called? The fake Safe Rock.
What? Why?
Because confusion is awesome. So it does not lead to a safe way down. So this theory was pointed out by Asahikawa Mountaineering Association Chairman Kiyoshi Hayami. Iwamura and the two hikers must have both been following a very similar path, trying to get to the Safe Rock, but instead found the fake Safe Rock and managed to maintain themselves in unsafe terrain. And so you're looking at them now. Jillian had to mark them because in the mist, you can see, there's a photo of them in the mist, nigh identical.
So there's like so it's like a rock, and they're both behind this just diagonal slant on, that is the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Misty on both sides. This is a test.
It's a test.
No, I'm not gonna fail because this is the same image, just from one from the other side and one from the other side. That's what it looks like. It looks like the exact same image,
That's the
and you
point,
guys just
man.
went. I took it from the front, then I
Yeah.
took it from the back.
And why does the fake one include the words
What?
Safe Rock? Like
What?
just call it not the good rock.
What?
Just bad rock. Just call it bad. You know what? I told Jillian this. I'm going to go out there and blow it up. Why is it there?
It shouldn't be there.
It
They
just
should
shouldn't
demo
exist.
that thing.
Yeah.
It's too similar.
So apparently
man.
people have tied a rope around it to demark it. And I'm like, you're not going to see that from a mile away.
No, you're not. But
yeah.
I mean, like, you could start with just going up to it, then I guess.
Yeah.
But then again, it's just like, all right, this one has a rope. This one doesn't have a rope. Knowing me and the way I overthink stuff, it's like, well, is this one the bad rock because it's got yellow rope? So cautious?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Right.
going to overthink the hell out of that, man.
It's like Michael Scott trying to put on the board, don't bother, I forget his name, but it was like, don't bother Blake or whatever the name was.
Yeah.
And then he circles it, put a cross through it. And,
Yeah,
and then he's
he
like,
does.
well, it makes it sound like you said, don't bother Blake.
Yeah.
Like, all right. And he erases don't out of it, writes don't on the outside, circles it again, crosses it out. And they go, okay, so don't bother Blake, right?
Yeah.
Don't not do bother Blake. And he goes, I can't make it any clearer. I feel like that's what's happening
That's
with this
exactly
rock.
what's happening.
Because when
God, the office is good.
I feel like I need to give this to you as a test, but when you look at them in the clear daylight, they're slightly different.
Right, but even then,
But they're so similar if you
even then though, you go, okay, kind of like a rectangular shaped rock
Yeah.
sticking out of a diagonal like slant in the
Uh-huh.
ground. That's what they both are.
overlooking
I'm
a
not-
grand view.
Right. If you showed me both of those and you go, one's safe, one's not safe, and then tell me to go off, I'm not gonna remember.
Right.
It looks so similar.
Yeah. And also, and I pointed this out too, but in this image, you can see it much more clearly. The safe rock demarks naturally the safe way down the mountain. The unsafe rock naturally demarks a terrible way to go down the mountain. But what makes it more confusing is that by the unsafe rock is a man-made sign with an arrow and some kanji that, I think it might say danger, but it points. And I'm like, just a sign pointing indicates you're telling me where a path is. What rock would tell me where a path is? The safe one.
I looked at both these images.
Uh-huh.
I didn't read which one was safe, which one was unsafe.
Uh-huh.
I assumed the one with the sign next to it, the
Right.
man-made sign, was
With
the
an arrow?
safe one.
Yeah.
And
No.
then, boom. Wow. Just to make it even more confusing. Hey,
Yeah.
you know the one with the man-made sign? That's not the safe one.
Right.
Come on, bro.
Like I
I thought
said-
even then I can go, all right, well, at least one has a sign on
Oh,
it.
yeah. I'm going
That's
to go
the
out
safe
there. I'm
one,
going to detonate
obviously.
it.
No, it's not. I failed the test.
I'm rolling it down the mountain.
I'm now lost.
Yeah, that is very confusing. So that is essentially the story of the SOS sign. And it only got more turbulent the closer you looked at it. And we don't have everything answered. That's why it's an unsolved case. Now, there's not necessarily theories as to what went on, as opposed to questions to answer. So in our theories section today, we're going to kind of ask 3 different questions and attempt to answer those. And that will attempt to close the gaps on this case.
Oh, yes, no, and burnt cheese are my answers.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by HelloFresh. Whether you're trying to save money, eat better, or stress less, HelloFresh is here to help you do all 3 simultaneously. Say hello to your most delicious year yet with fresh ingredients and chef-crafted recipes, baby, at a price that you're going to love, and it's all delivered right to your door. Each HelloFresh box is packed with farm-fresh ingredients, and everything arrives pre-proportioned right to your doorstep for less hassle and less wasted food. And you can look forward to HelloFresh's wholesome, health-forward options like over 30 calorie smart and protein smart recipes each and every week. I really enjoy HelloFresh because not only does it help me get comfortable in the kitchen by giving me all these recipes, it has me eating good. I've got protein-packed meals that all taste delicious every single time, and it's broadened my taste horizons. I used to think I was a picky eater, but they give me all this fresh food. I cook it on up. I got dinner with the fiance, then I've got some leftovers the next day, and it's all good every single time. I've never been let down by HelloFresh. And if you're interested, you can go to HelloFresh.com/RedWebFree and use promo code RedWebFree for free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That is wild. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/RedWebFree and use that code RedWebFree. Get that breakfast on, most important meal of the day, and let them know we sent you. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Shady Rays. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses brand that has over 250,000 five-star reviews, and they are on a mission to match affordability with durability, making top quality shades accessible to everyone. They have tons of styles and colors to pick from, so finding the perfect polarized shades is a breeze. If you game or stare at screens all day like I do, they also have blue light glasses to level up your gaming style and reduce all that eye strain. If you find that you look away to the horizon, Christian, you've been gaming for hours on end, and you look to the horizon, it's a little blurry, maybe you could use some of that eye strain reduction.
Oh, I could use it.
That's really going to help. We keep telling Christian to stop staring directly at the sun.
I say stop staring at it. It's not going anywhere.
It's just so shiny.
He thinks it's going to run away.
Yeah, he really wants to look at it.
Well, Shady Rays won't help if you stare at the sun. Just don't do that. But personally, I really enjoy my Shady Rays because, again, they have so many different styles. So no matter how I want to cruise out of the house and go on my walk in the bright, sunny atmosphere, Christian's still staring at the sun, I get to look good on my walk. I love all the different styles they have, and they have something that fits every single outfit. If you don't love your shades, exchange them or return them for free within 30 days. There's literally no risk when you shop. Exclusively for Task Force members, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal. Head to shadyrays.com and use code REDWEB, and you're going to get 35% off polarized sunglasses and snow goggles. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. Again, that's promo code REDWEB for 35% off. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook. Are you looking for a super offer for Super Bowl 58? DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered. New customers can bet on the big game and turn $5 into $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code REDWEB. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code REDWEB. The crown is yours.
If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problems gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
So did the bones belong to Iwamura? So due to the location of the skull and the items in the backpack which most likely belong to Iwamura himself, it can be assumed that the skull also belonged to him. However, the bone test results were conflicting. Examining bones for gender can be inconclusive since, according to the Natural History Museum of London, bones often do not fit a strict gender binary. They are rated on a 5-point scale, with one ending in probably female, the other ending in probably male, and then 3 that are undetermined.
Oh, well, that's not good odds.
Right. Like I said before, there was also no DNA testing on the items in the backpack, as far as we could find anyway. Some believe that the woman went in with Iwamura to the mountains, but there's no leads for who that would have been if Iwamura did go hiking with a person that they knew or a stranger or what have you. And if there was a person with him, there's no leads as to who that person was, what her identity is. And there's no record of a woman going missing in Asahidake around that time. Though that doesn't make it impossible.
Right, it could have been missing elsewhere.
Missing elsewhere, unreported. happens all the
he
time.
was what, 1,000 miles away?
Yes, by way of car, but yeah, he was quite a long way from home.
Yeah.
And plenty of people, as we've discovered on the show, can go missing without being reported. So it's not completely out of the woods, but it is something to bring up. I even kind of spitballed with Jillian a little I don't know, a bittersweet idea. What if this was Iwamura hiking in the woods, hiking on these mountains with someone that he loved. And then they built this sign because they were lost, and you know how that story ends. But then you flash forward 5 years and you have other hikers, perhaps not dating or whatever, but then they are saved by the acts of these others. And I feel like that's such I don't know.
It's a little poetic.
A little poetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
Again, I'm kind of contriving a story, connecting some dots, but it is worth saying. And when I was talking to Jillian, she mentioned this, at the time, that's kind of how the Japanese news was reporting it, that they were known associates of some kind, that they were hiking together, not that they were different people out of time, right? Like Iwamura 5 years ago, this woman 1 to 3 years ago, and then this group. Because then suddenly it's there's a lot of groups orbiting this kind of SOS sign. Anyway, when police played the recording of the man calling for help, Iwamura's parents couldn't definitively say whether or not that was the voice of their son. It's possible that the skull belonged to someone else, yet another person, potentially a group of people, as you had mentioned, which would make a third person, I guess.
Oh, man.
Again, most likely this was Iwamura's, but this won't be the only time that we conclude that perhaps there's yet another person in play.
Yeah.
So the next question to ask is, did Iwamura build the SOS sign? It's possible that he built the sign since his stuff was found so closely by. Topographical data from the Japan Forest Agency and Japan Geographical Authority showed that the sign had been there since at least September 20th, 1987. Just like Google Maps, however, those images are sourced, some sort of necromancy probably.
Yep.
We have satellite imagery all over the world, and these exist for this area, and you can see the SOS sign. Now, Iwamura went missing 3 years before that, so it's still in the cards that he was the one that made it. The sign was not seen in aerial photos going back to 1982. The issue here is that we can't necessarily dial it into Iwamura's absence because these photos are taken every 5 years, and there is a gap of 2 years before him. So you don't see it in 82, you see it in 87. He went missing in 84,
Right.
It's only a good probability.
5-year gaps. The whole missing situation was 5 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, oh man, that's a huge gap. That being said, I feel like I need to figure out when a satellite's outside my house. So then every 5 years I can step outside and point an invisible gat at the sun. And so you can see every 5 years. It's like this man keeps stepping outside and pointing at us.
You got to find the same spot too.
Yeah.
This man's not moved.
He's moved for 15 years.
Then you got to make sure that when Google Maps drives by and they scan the roads.
They scan the roads. And I'm there too.
That you're there. Still pointing at the sun.
Yep, the long con.
We're in the same clothes every time.
Every time, man.
Weird. I wonder if somebody's done that or done something like I've seen some people plan around it. Like they get a whole yard situation, cookout going on, and then they cheer it going by.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's ruined now because everyone's faces get blurred. It makes sense. But anyway, back to the case. So assuming the cassette recording was Iwamura, he might have seen a helicopter and tried to get their attention by making the SOS sign. Well, 5 years early, but he did. Strangely, we couldn't find any further information regarding any helicopter, whether he was dropped off by one, whether he saw one. This is a conversation I have seen online regarding this case that a lot of people have been frustrated. Like he's saying in the recording something about a helicopter, and then everyone discussing this case, like ourselves, kind of let it go and never come back to it. And Jillian did her darnest to figure out what that angle was, and we can't find anything documented anyway. So it's unknown what the speaker may have been referring to, and whether it was being dropped off at some point as a hiker or that somebody was flying by.
Yeah.
They met a helicopter. Now, when looking at the sign, looking at the wood that made up of it, the limbs, the branches, maybe some logs, whatever, it was estimated that it would take about 2 days to create this sign. A lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of effort. 2 days. The birch trees themselves would have had to been chopped down. These are probably not naturally felled trees that were used. But again, this is the conclusion of people investigating, not my own. They concluded that they must have been chopped down. Birch is a very hard wood and most likely would have taken a considerable amount of effort not only to cut down, but then to haul into place and make sure it was all good to go. If the voice on the recording belonged to Iwamura, it sounded like he was hurt. And if that's the case, it would have been very difficult for someone like that to make this sign. The bones also showed that whoever owned the bones, the person, was likely weak or ill. So if they were Iwamura's, it would stand to say that he could not have done this SOS sign alone. It's not impossible that, maybe adrenaline kicks in, desperation kicks in. This is a survival situation after all. Maybe he pushed through it, but it's hard to say.
But if he was out there for a while, who's to say that the injuries and the tape didn't come after the sign was built?
That's a great point. Now, some people have argued that if Iwamura had the ability to chop down the tree, all the trees enough to build this sign, arrange them, take the full 2 days to do all of that, and maybe that's how he got injured, but he would have then also had the energy and time to go down the mountain to the base. Others have suggested that he could have been following the Chubetsugawa River all the way down the mountain, which, with it winding to and fro, might have been difficult, maybe not the most efficient way. And though we don't know his mental state at the time, he likely had no idea where he was going and was just supremely lost.
I was just about to say, how do you can't assume the person knows where they're going, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could have been an inexperienced hiker, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, even then experienced hikers get lost.
Oh, yeah.
How would you know, follow this?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, unless
It's
you knew.
hindsight, right? It's like, well,
Right.
if you're in this location, just follow this. It's like, well, how do you know they get lost in that location? Like, I don't know.
Yep. Man, this is why I got to stick to these trails. So, notably, with the idea that, again, going with the conclusions of people investigating that these must have been cut down, these weren't discovered limbs, these weren't discovered trees, there was no axe found in the area. It's not uncommon, of course, like in scenes left alone for 5 years, things are going to move apart, right? Animals might find bodies, gnaw on the bones, distribute them around. Tools might go missing. If a second person got lost and also found your sign, maybe they took the axe. But either way, there was no axe found, though it is possible that it moved. It just was elsewhere.
Yeah.
We don't know. Discussions from Japan have pointed out that the SOS sign resembles one from the manga for Astro Boy. As we know,
Astro Boy.
yeah, we know that Iwamura had some anime themes on his cassettes.
Yeah, just
Stands
a
to
love
re-
for anime.
Or I guess, yeah. And so it stands to reason that maybe he was also a manga reader. Maybe this is how he got the idea. Maybe we're connecting dots that shouldn't be connected, but this was a conversation at the time. The characters were trapped at one point. They got the idea to cut down trees and make a sign.
I would just say 9,000. That way it could be like, whoa, Dragon Ball. The power,
You would
the
just chop down
power.
trees and put out the number 9,000.
Yeah, so it's like, well, they one is they still find me, but two, they also know my power level.
Well, hey, that's important.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, this guy is lost, but he's also powerful.
Hold on, though. It's over 9,000. So you're going to put a greater than symbol on there?
Oh, that's a lot of work.
It's at least a couple extra trees.
Yeah. I don't
Here's a
know about all
pop
that.
quiz. Which direction is greater than and which direction is less than? Totally off the rails.
Greater than is left, less than is right.
But what do you mean left?
Like
Like
the
it's pointing
mouth,
left?
the mouth is open to the left. It's
There you
greater
go.
and less than.
Yeah.
Math was my stronger suit.
The alligator wants to go for the bigger one, right?
yeah, you did it that way. Yeah, alligator goes with a bigger one. I heard that.
I just
actually.
do it open towards the bigger one.
Yeah.
I see so many people get that wrong. Anyway,
Yeah,
little
I was
tangent.
like eating it towards the bigger one.
Right. So if you're lost and you want to let people know your power level, don't get that symbol the wrong way.
No, because if it's
Less
less
than
than, they might
9,000.
skip you.
Yeah, we know why he got lost.
So dumb.
It's very dumb. Okay. Now, coming back to this question, it's possible that someone else built this sign before or after Iwamura's disappearance. If that's the case, this becomes
Jeez.
the gnarliest sign for safety
right.
I've ever heard, because so many people, it's like a cursed sign that if you find it, you'll stay lost, and if you don't find it, you'll be found. Wild.
I didn't even think about that. It could have just been over the span of 5 years, multiple people getting lost and coming across this SOS sign. Or who knows, maybe just built by multiple people.
Maybe someone
one
got the
person
S in and someone
yeah.
came in and said, I'm going to write my name.
Yeah.
Sam. and then they only got the O and said, I guess they're doing SOS.
They didn't get picked up, so I guess that is really important.
So remember that this is one of the tallest mountains in Hokkaido. And the reason why I mention that is because like it is a destination for mountaineers, hikers of all caliber. And from that, and according to the data from Hokkaido Wilds, search and rescue teams have been sent to the Asahi Dake and Daisetsuzan National Park area roughly 200 times just since 2015. So in the last 9 years, search and rescue has gone to the area 200 times. You can imagine this is kind of now a hot spot for people just getting missing.
So, I mean,
or getting lost.
People are getting lost then, right? Like they're dispatching search and rescue because people are lost.
Yeah. And so it does stand to reason that...
It's the rocks, man. But just demolish one of them like Trevor said. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
God. I mean, easier said than done. And who knows? Can't assume someone's motive or whatnot. But man, just stick on the trail.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just wild. So like, regardless of whether he made it or not, it's definitely possible that other people stumbled across it, were in the area, didn't know about it, whatever. It's
within 5 years, 200 missions got sent.
Well, remember...
Or like 8 years or so.
You just played your time hand. 2015 does feel like 5 years ago. It's 9 years ago.
9? I was thinking 8. 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But you're not wrong. In that 5-year stretch, mathematically speaking, about 100 search and rescue, again, by modern standards, who knows if it's the same rate of going missing or not, but by modern standards, through that stretch of 5 years in the 80s, it's possible that upwards of 100 different groups went missing, needed search and rescue, something like that.
Yeah, and they keep stumbling across the same sign.
Yeah. So
statistically, that's not far-fetched at all.
Someone who made the sign could be completely anonymous, and we just don't know. Someone who unfortunately succumbed, never found.
Man,
it's possible.
Jeez.
So now let's get to your, what was it? Burnt chocolate?
Burnt cheese.
Burnt cheese?
It was yes, no, burnt cheese.
All right. So yes, the bones belong to Iwamura. No, he didn't build the sign. And this isn't even a question, so your answer makes sense. There's the other angle now, the other theory that Iwamura met another person on the mountain. Burnt cheese.
Yeah, burnt cheese.
So it's also possible that he met somebody and got lost alongside that person. Tests from the bones showed that Iwamura was weak. His parents could not confirm the voice on the cassette tape was in fact him. It could have been somebody else. It could have been him just with maybe more fear on his voice. It's really hard to say. Maybe more hoarse because he'd been yelling. Regardless, you can spin that 1,000 ways. But maybe Iwamura met up with a person, and that person was the one who built the SOS sign alongside him. They may have then also used Iwamura's Walkman to record themselves. Also, considering the discrepancy in the bones, once again, it's possible that there was yet a third mysterious person, and that maybe we're dealing with a group here.
Dude, imagine just like being lost, running into someone else that's lost, and then building a SOS sign together, and then even more over the top, someone else goes, "Hey, what are you guys doing here? I'm lost too."
And you're like, "Hey, could you start working on that S over there?" Like, all right.
Also, at one point, as the group becomes so big that it's detrimental.
Well, they start turning in on each other and yellow jacketing. Yeah. So what's interesting, and that's kind of the end of the SOS Sign Incident. It's fascinating case from the outset.
It's so simple yet so elegant.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting with these theories is that there is a common thread where, we don't know who made it necessarily. We know whose stuff was near it in the end, but I can imagine this being a group all in the same time frame. I can also imagine this being multiple individuals or multiple groups stumbling over this area
building
over time and maybe camping out in the same spot because there's a hole under a tree and there's an SOS sign. Where else should you go? And maybe that's why the axe is missing if there ever was one. It's just the mind wanders with answers, with possibilities. And these are in a morbid way, right? But this is just one of my favorite types of mysteries. You can see it going so many different directions, so many different possible answers on the table. None of them are necessarily nefarious. They're just kind of
not at all
possible answers. Again, it's a refreshing moment to step away from like true crime and whodunit to, man, this is unfortunate no matter how it's cut, but it could be cut so many different ways.
It really could. It really could be. And there could be so many more people involved than you think there would be. And then there could have been cross paths or paths that didn't cross at all.
Right.
This is such a simple yet sophisticated case, and it took an immediate turn. It was pitched to me as two hikers that got lost. Their SOS and SOS sign is what helped them like get found. But they come to realize they didn't build that sign. I go, that's wild. Let's dig into those people. Never heard of those people after that beginning.
They're like, no, we're safe, we're good. Bye.
Anyways, those guys are fine. Let me tell you about the other guy.
Yeah.
Like, oh man.
And it also just makes me think of all the cases that are just out of reach, right? We have this whole case, we have this whole mystery because police went to further investigate and then they found items, they found bones. If they had never found any of that, this would have just been a really short, but I mean, it still would have been a mystery. Who made that sign? I don't know. Someone probably would have claimed
That's
it.
true.
I made that when I was 12. But like, I don't know. It just makes me think what kind of just basic, bog standard, but wild mysteries are around any corner that we just don't know about.
Just don't know. Or this could have been just one park ranger's step on the SOS site from discovering a second tape with all the answers. You know what I mean? They could have stopped a couple steps short from a bush to their left that had another bag with answers in it and just never found.
Yeah.
Like, man.
Whew. Well, this has been the SOS Sign Incident, the mystery that will forever intrigue us. And I gotta say, Japan, the mysteries that surround Japan
Oh, they're good.
are wild.
They're very wild.
Wild.
That's the same one that had the candy factory one.
The soda machine and also the monster with 1,000 faces.
Yes, that
candy.
one.
Yeah, the candy.
Oh, it's good ones.
Yeah. All right. Well, Fredo, I will see you right back here next Monday for yet another mystery. We changed the elevator code, so be mindful on the way up. It's 80 floors up to the surface.
I know, it takes forever.
A lot of this remodeling stuff, you get contractors in, contractors out.
Yeah, we should have more floors, though.
We got to add more floors.